The return. The morning sun cast long shadows across the Atacama Desert when the ships appeared. Dr. Sarah Mitchell was carefully brushing sand from a pottery fragment when her satellite phone erupted with emergency alerts. She looked up from her excavation site to see three massive vessels hanging motionless in the clear blue sky, their surfaces gleaming like polished obsidian. Sarah had spent 15 years studying ancient civilizations, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The ships were enormous, each one easily the size of a city block, with smooth curves that seemed to bend light around their edges. They made no sound, cast no shadows, and defied every law of physics she understood. Within hours, the entire world knew. News helicopters circled at a respectful distance while military jets maintained defensive positions. The ships had appeared simultaneously over major population centers in Chile, Egypt, and Mongolia, but they did nothing except hover there, waiting. The first communication came through every electronic device on Earth at exactly noon, Greenwich Mean Time. Radios, televisions, smartphones, and even digital billboards displayed the same message, in every known language. We seek peaceful contact with the people of this world. We mean no harm. We have come to recover what was lost long ago. Dr. Mitchell found herself pulled away from her dig site and rushed to Santiago, where an emergency international council was forming. Her expertise in ancient languages and archaeological dating had made her one of the most sought-after consultants in the suddenly very relevant field of what the hell is happening. The council met in a hastily secured conference center, with world leaders participating via secure video links. General Rodriguez, a stern man with decades of military experience, sat across from Sarah at the polished conference table. His jaw was tight with tension. "We need to assume hostile intent until proven otherwise," Rodriguez stated firmly. "These beings have technology far beyond ours. We're defensively compromised." Sarah shook her head. Their message specifically mentioned peaceful intentions. If they wanted to harm us, would ships that advanced really need to announce themselves? Before Rodriguez could respond, every screen in the room flickered. A new image appeared, a being that was clearly not human, yet somehow familiar. It stood roughly 7 feet tall, with elongated limbs and pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Its large, dark eyes held an expression of what appeared to be deep sadness. "People of Earth," the being said, its voice carrying a melodic quality that somehow conveyed sincerity across species barriers. "I am Commander Zethkar of the Kethmori Collective. We come to you not as conquerors, but as those seeking to recover our lost family." The being paused, as if gathering strength for what came next. 30,000 of your years ago we sent a research expedition to your world. Our scientists were studying the development of life in this solar system. The expedition consisted of 57 individuals aboard our vessel Silent Wanderer. We lost all contact with them during what your astronomers call the Younger Dryas period. Sarah felt her heart racing. The Younger Dryas was a well-documented climate event that occurred roughly 12,800 years ago, but the alien was talking about something much earlier. 30,000 years ago would place their arrival during the Upper Paleolithic period, when humans were still hunter-gatherers. "We have spent millennia developing the technology needed for this journey," Zethkar continued. "Our people do not abandon our own. We have come to find what remains of our expedition and, if possible, bring our lost family home." General Rodriguez leaned forward. "And if we refuse to help you?" Zethkar's expression grew even sadder. "Then we will search on our own and leave when our task is complete. We understand your fear. In our long history, we have encountered many species that respond to the unknown with aggression. But we also know that some species respond with curiosity and compassion. We hope humanity is among the latter." Dr. Mitchell found herself speaking before she could stop herself. "What can you tell us about your expedition? Any details that might help us locate them?" The alien commander's large eyes focused on her with what seemed like gratitude. "Our historical records indicate they established a base camp in what you now call the Andes Mountains. The location was chosen for its geological stability and relative isolation from your early settlements. However, 30 millennia is a long time. Continental drift, erosion, and seismic activity have likely altered the landscape significantly. President Chen, speaking from Beijing via secure link, cut in. What do you offer in exchange for our assistance? Knowledge, Zethkar replied. Immediately. Our civilizations develop differently, but we have learned much about sustainable energy, medical technology, and space travel. We would be willing to share some of our discoveries with a species wise enough to help us recover our lost family. The room erupted in whispered conversations. Sarah could see the wheels turning in everyone's minds. The potential benefits were enormous, but so were the risks. These beings possessed technology that could revolutionize human civilization or destroy it entirely. Professor Kim, a quantum physicist from Seoul, raised her hand. Commander Zethkar, our archaeological records from 30,000 years ago are limited. How can we possibly help locate something that old? The alien's expression brightened slightly. Your species has surprised us already. When we arrived, we detected quantum signatures that match Kethmori technology, integrated into your communication networks and power grids. We believe your ancestors may have encountered our expedition and learned from their technology. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Throughout human history, there had always been unexplained leaps in technological development. The sudden appearance of advanced tool-making, the mysterious origins of certain mathematical principles, even some modern breakthroughs that seemed to come out of nowhere. You're suggesting that human technological development was influenced by your lost expedition? She asked. It would explain much, Zethkar admitted. Our people are natural teachers. If they encountered your early ancestors, they would have shared knowledge to help your species survive and thrive. It is our way. General Rodriguez stood up abruptly. This is a lot to process. We need time to consider your request and verify your claims. Of course, the alien commander replied. We will maintain our current position and await your decision. However, I must inform you that we are not the only ones searching for our lost expedition. Other factions within our government believe it is time to retrieve what was left behind and establish a more permanent presence in this sector. We prefer to handle this as a peaceful recovery mission, but if we fail, others may come who are less diplomatic. The transmission ended, leaving the conference room in stunned silence. Sarah stared at the blank screen, her mind racing with possibilities. As an archaeologist, she had always dreamed of making a discovery that would change human understanding of history. Now she might be on the verge of something far greater. Over the following days, teams of scientists, military personnel, and government officials worked around the clock to analyze the situation. Satellite imagery was reviewed, geological surveys were conducted, and ancient sites were re-examined with new eyes. Sarah found herself leading a joint task force of archaeologists and linguists, tasked with identifying potential locations for the lost Kethmori expedition. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a geologist studying mineral deposits in the Chilean Andes, discovered unusual crystalline formations in a remote valley. The crystals showed properties that defied conventional physics, maintaining perfect structural integrity despite being buried for millennia. These formations, Dr. Vasquez explained to the Emergency Council, they're not natural. The molecular structure is too perfect, too ordered, and they're emitting a faint energy signature that our instruments can barely detect. Sarah examined the samples with growing excitement. The location matches the general area Commander Zethkar described, and if these crystals are artificial, they could be remnants of Kethmori technology. General Rodriguez remained skeptical. Or it could be a trap. How do we know these aliens are telling the truth about their peaceful intentions? Because they haven't done anything aggressive, Sarah pointed out. They've been in orbit for a week now, with technology that could easily overwhelm our defenses. Instead, they're asking for our help and offering to share their knowledge in return. Professor Kim nodded in agreement. From a tactical standpoint, if they wanted to take something from Earth by force, they would have done it already. The fact that they're negotiating suggests genuine peaceful intent. The decision came from the highest levels of government. humanity would assist the Kethmori in locating their lost expedition. A joint exploration team would be formed, combining human expertise in archaeology and geology with alien technology and historical records. As Sarah packed her equipment for what would likely be the most important expedition in human history, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to uncover something far more significant than a lost alien research team. The implications of Kethmori influence on human development were staggering, and she suspected they had only scratched the surface of the truth. 3 days later, Sarah stood at the entrance to the remote Andean valley, watching as Kethmori shuttlecraft descended from the orbiting ships. The aliens moved with graceful efficiency, their technology seamlessly integrating with human equipment. Commander Zethkar approached her, his tall figure casting an elongated shadow in the mountain air. "Dr. Mitchell," he said, his voice carrying that same melodic quality she remembered from their first contact. "Your species has shown remarkable courage in agreeing to help us. We will not forget this kindness." Sarah looked up at the alien commander, seeing something in his large dark eyes that transcended species barriers. Hope mixed with ancient grief. "Commander, I have to ask, what if we find your expedition but they didn't survive? 30,000 years is a very long time." Zethkar was quiet for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the mountains around them. "Then we will honor their memory and ensure their sacrifice was not in vain. But Dr. Mitchell, there is something about my people you should understand. We do not die easily, and we do not abandon our missions lightly. I believe we will find more than just ruins in these mountains." As the joint human-alien expedition began their descent into the valley, Sarah realized that whatever they discovered would fundamentally change humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The question was not whether they would find the lost Kethmori expedition, but what that discovery would mean for both species moving forward. The discovery, the crystalline formations grew denser as the expedition descended deeper into the Andean valley. Sarah watched in fascination as the Kethmori scanning devices responded to increasingly strong energy signatures emanating from beneath the mountainside. What had started as faint traces now registered as a complex network of interconnected power sources, all dormant but somehow still intact after 30 millennia. Commander Zethkar moved with growing urgency, his elongated fingers dancing across holographic displays that materialized in the thin mountain air. "The quantum signatures are unmistakable," he announced to the mixed human-alien team. "This is definitely Kethmori technology, but the power grid is far more extensive than a simple research outpost should require." Dr. Mitchell carefully documented each discovery, her archaeological training keeping her focused on the methodical process of uncovering the past. But her heart raced with excitement as ground-penetrating radar revealed a vast underground complex directly beneath their feet. The structure was massive, easily covering several square kilometers and extending deep into the mountain's core. "Commander," called out Dr. Vasquez, the geologist who had first discovered the crystals. "We're reading multiple chamber systems all connected by what appear to be transportation tunnels. This isn't just an outpost, it's an entire city." General Rodriguez, who had insisted on accompanying the expedition despite his initial skepticism, studied the readouts with growing concern. "A city means a large population. How many of your people were really on this expedition?" Zethkar's expression grew troubled. "Our records clearly state 57 individuals, but you are correct, Dr. Vasquez. What we are detecting suggests a much larger settlement. Either our historical data is incomplete, or something unexpected occurred after the expedition arrived." Professor Kim, working alongside Kethmori technicians, to calibrate the scanning equipment, made another startling discovery. "I'm detecting organic signatures within the complex. Faint but definitely present. Something down there is still alive." The revelation sent shockwaves through both teams. Sarah felt her scientific objectivity warring with her growing sense of wonder and apprehension. 30,000 years was an impossible time span for any known life form to survive, yet the evidence was undeniable. The entrance to the underground complex was located beneath a seemingly natural rock formation. Kethmori technology dissolved, the stone barrier as easily as cutting through water, revealing a perfectly preserved tunnel that descended into the mountain at a gentle angle. Emergency lighting activated automatically as the team entered, casting an ethereal blue glow that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. The architecture is definitely Kethmori, Zethkar confirmed as they walked deeper into the complex. But the scale is far beyond anything we typically construct for a research mission. This required decades of construction, perhaps centuries. Sarah ran her hands along the smooth walls, marveling at the seamless integration of organic curves and geometric precision. The tunnel opened into a vast central chamber that took her breath away. The space was enormous, with a domed ceiling that disappeared into shadows above. Holographic displays covered the walls, showing star charts, planetary data, and what appeared to be biological diagrams of various species. But it was the central feature of the chamber that left everyone speechless. Rising from the floor like a massive tree was a crystalline structure that pulsed with soft light. Its branches spread out in all directions, connecting to smaller nodes throughout the chamber. The entire network hummed with barely contained energy. By the ancestors, Zethkar whispered in his own language before switching back to English. This is a memory core, a repository of knowledge and experience, but it's far more advanced than anything in our current technology. Dr. Mitchell approached one of the wall displays, which activated at her presence. Images flashed before her eyes. Early humans learning to use tools, the development of agriculture, the rise of civilizations. But woven throughout were glimpses of tall blue-skinned figures working alongside human ancestors, teaching and guiding their progress. "Commander!" she called out, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. "I think you need to see this." The Kethmori leader joined her at the display, his large eyes widening as he processed the information. The holographic records showed his people, not as detached observers but as active participants in human development. They had taught early humans advanced techniques for agriculture, metallurgy, and astronomy. They had helped human societies survive climate changes and natural disasters. Most significantly, they had gradually introduced concepts and technologies that would eventually form the foundation of modern human civilization. "This changes everything," Zethkar said quietly. "Our people didn't just observe human development, they guided it. They became part of it." General Rodriguez studied the displays with a mixture of awe and suspicion. "Are you saying that human civilization exists because of alien intervention? That we're not really responsible for our own achievements?" Before Zethkar could respond, a new voice echoed through the chamber. It was ancient and weary, but unmistakably Kethmori in its melodic tones. "Not intervention, young warrior. Partnership." The team spun around to see a figure emerging from a previously hidden passage. The being was clearly Kethmori, but older than any they had encountered. Its skin had taken on a silvery hue, and its movements suggested great age and wisdom. Most remarkably, it wore clothing that combined Kethmori materials with what appeared to be human-crafted elements. "I am Elder Vox," the ancient being said, bowing formally to both the human and Kethmori members of the expedition. "I am the last survivor of the original research mission, and I have been waiting a very long time for this moment." Zethkar stepped forward, his own formal bearing reflecting deep respect for his elder. "Honored Vox, we came to bring our lost family home. The collective has mourned your disappearance for 30 millennia." Elder Vox's expression was gentle but sad. "My family is already home, young commander. Let me show you what really happened here." The ancient Kethmori led them deeper into the complex, through chambers filled with impossible technology and artistic masterpieces that blended alien and human aesthetics. He spoke as they walked, his words painting a picture of a mission that had evolved far beyond its original parameters. "We came as observers," Vox explained, "but we found a species unlike any we had encountered before. Your early ancestors were not just intelligent, they were compassionate. When our ship was damaged, in the climate upheaval you call the Younger Dryas, human tribes could have left us to die. Instead, they helped us. They shared their food, their shelter, their knowledge of this world." Sarah listened in fascination as the elder described a gradual integration between the two species. The Kethmori had initially planned to repair their ship and return home, but many chose to stay and help their human friends survive the harsh climate changes. Over centuries, the temporary outpost had grown into a thriving underground city where both species lived and worked together. "But why didn't you make contact with your homeworld?" Professor Kim asked. "Surely you could have built communication equipment." Elder Vox paused at the entrance to another chamber, his ancient eyes reflecting deep sadness. "We tried, young scientist. But by the time we had the resources to build long-range transmitters, our civilization had changed. We were no longer purely Kethmori or purely human. We had become something new." The chamber beyond contained rows of crystalline pods, each glowing with soft internal light. Sarah gasped as she realized what she was seeing. Inside each pod was a figure in suspended animation, but they weren't quite Kethmori and weren't quite human. They were something in between, a hybrid of both species. The first-generation hybrids were born about 25,000 years ago, Vox continued. They inherited the best traits of both species, Kethmori longevity and technological aptitude, combined with human adaptability and emotional intelligence. But they also inherited a problem. They couldn't survive in either pure Kethmori or pure human environments for extended periods. Zethkar stared at the pods in amazement. "How many?" "Nearly 3,000 individuals," Vox replied. "Multiple generations of a new kind of being. They chose to enter suspended animation when it became clear that their unique physiology required specialized environmental conditions to survive long-term." The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. "You're saying there's an entire hybrid civilization sleeping under this mountain? And they're the descendants of your original expedition?" "More than that," Elder Vox said with a gentle smile. "Many of them have been waiting for the return of the Kethmori collective, hoping to establish a bridge between our species. They carry within their genetic memory the accumulated knowledge of 30,000 years of cooperation between humans and Kethmori." General Rodriguez, who had been quietly observing the exchange, finally spoke. "Elder Vox, why reveal this now? You could have remained hidden." The ancient being turned to face the human military officer with eyes that held the wisdom of millennia. "Because, General Rodriguez, both of our species stand at a crossroads. Humanity is beginning to reach beyond your world, while the Kethmori collective faces challenges that require new perspectives and approaches. The hybrid descendants represent the potential for a true alliance between our civilizations." Commander Zethkar studied the sleeping figures in their crystalline pods. "But can they be awakened safely? And would they even want to rejoin the wider galaxy?" "That," Elder Vox said, "is a choice they must make for themselves. But first, both the collective and humanity must decide if they are ready for the truth. Your lost expedition didn't disappear. It evolved into the foundation for a new kind of civilization, one that could serve as a bridge between species throughout the galaxy." Sarah felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders. As an archaeologist, she had always dreamed of discoveries that would rewrite human understanding of the past. Now she stood in a chamber that could reshape the future of two entire civilizations. "Elder Vox," she said carefully, "what happens if we choose to wake them? What would they want from both humanity and the Kethmori collective?" The ancient being smiled, and for a moment his weathered features reflected the same hope Sarah had seen in Commander Zethkar's eyes. "They would want what all children want from their parents, Dr. Mitchell: acceptance, understanding, and the chance to contribute to something greater than themselves." As the expedition team stood in the chamber of sleeping hybrids, Sarah realized that humanity's response to this discovery would define not just their relationship with the Kethmori, but their role in a much larger galactic community. The question was no longer about recovering a lost alien expedition. It was about whether two species could embrace a shared future that honored both their differences and their common hopes. The sleeping figures in their crystalline pods represented more than just the descendants of ancient cooperation. They were living proof that when species chose partnership over conflict, understanding over fear, They could create something beautiful and unprecedented. Sarah looked at Commander Zethkar and saw her own determination reflected in his alien features. "Commander," she said firmly, "I think it's time both our civilizations learned what's possible when we work together instead of apart." The Kethamori leader nodded solemnly. "Indeed, Dr. Mitchell. Perhaps it is time for the collective to remember that exploration is not just about discovering new worlds, but about discovering new ways to live in harmony with those we meet along the way." As preparations began to carefully awaken the first of the hybrid descendants, Sarah knew that humanity was about to take its most important step into a larger universe. The forgotten expedition had been found, but what they had discovered was far more valuable than anyone had imagined, proof that cooperation between species could create wonders that neither could achieve alone.